Welcome back to Cure for the Common Game. Today, in deck number 857, we're going to talk about Ulamog, the Infinite Gyre? Sure. And a big shout out, thank you so much, Mr. Zach. Zach donated this to the channel a while back. It's been several months ago, but it just took me time to build the deck, to work it into the rotation, as it were. Ulamog, man, this is a big one. 11 mana, 10/10. And when you cast Ulamog, you destroy target permanent. Now, it has that lovely ability Annihilator 4 this time. Of course, whenever it attacks, a defending player has to sack 4 permanents, and then they've got to worry about blocking it. Of course, Ulamog is indestructible, and it has the original Eldrazi Titans had this clause to where they couldn't exist in a graveyard. If they were put there, they were just shuffled back in. I like this because it shuffles the entire graveyard with it, as they do. The reason why that they didn't want them in the graveyard is for us, to reanimate our folks to try to cheat this 11, mana creature into play. Anyway, like I said, 11 mana. So we've got to cast this thing. Now, for those who just joined us, in the Commander community, there is no mana symbols on this card. None. So, we can't have colored mana. That's just the way the rules work. So, this is a 100% colorless deck. But we still got to have our ramp, which comes in the form of artifacts. So, let's start with that. Of course, we have a Soul Talisman and a Soul Ring. The Plague Mirror also can double up, if there are times that you can squeeze in an Infect Wind, but it's a 2-mana mana rock, mainly. Kind of like the Fractured Power Stone. These Strixhaven cards, I really kind of like them. I know this is not ramp card, but it does get a basic land. We do have colorless basic lands. Put it in your hand, you gain 2 life. You don't really care about the gain life part. I like these in non-green decks, and it's kind of essential in this. But we do have waste, which are basic. Now, we have to be careful about things that refer to basics, like basic land type. It does not have a type. Waste does not have a type. Yeah, makes me sad too. Mannequin, Hedron Crawler, Foundry Inspector, of course, that's going to make everything cost 1 less. Well, not everything, just your artifact. It doesn't say colorless. So your Eldrazi spells and things that aren't artifacts will still cost full price. Pristine Talisman, or like a Relic, Seer's Lantern. Now, one thing that I tried to avoid here, there was a couple that I absolutely couldn't avoid. Let's look at here, where the Seer's Lantern says tapped at a colorless, that's the colorless symbol, and then the Darksteel Ingot, tapped to add 1 mana of any color. Now, we can make mana of any color, but in this deck, we can't really use it. We can use it as to pay generic cost, but we do have a lot of things that require specifically colorless mana. But I really wanted the Darksteel Ingot for reasons we'll get into later. Burnished Heart's going to go get some basics. Unstable Obelisk can double as removal. The Mirror, Everflowing Chalice, or Golem's Eye, Hedron Archive, Causal X Chandler. Here's a, good colorless mana dork. Spectral Searchlight's another one that any color. Dreamstone Hedron, and I classify the Manifold. Well, the Manifold key in this deck is kind of awesome. There's so much utility there with untap another artifact, but you can untap another mana rock or a creature or what have you, and have the Expedition map in there. Mainly, yes, it can bail you out of a bind for if you're land shy, but it'll also go get a piece of the Tron, Urza's Tower, Urza's Power Plant, Urza's Mine. Those are all, fairly good cards. Now, for card draw, there's not a whole lot in Colorless. I mean, we do have the Seer Sundial, Landfall, pay 2, draw a card. We're always going to want to do that. The Sandstone Oracle. Now, the one thing I've included in here that works well with the Sandstone Oracle is, it enters the battlefield, you choose an opponent, you draw equal to the difference. Sure. But the problem is it's a one-shot deal. Well, Erratic Portal's really good anyway, because even with our commander, it comes in, you 187 something right then. Or, because we know we're not going to pay the 1. However, conversely, it's also a really good defensive card because we play a tap-out format. But, I mean, we also have cool stuff like the Meteor Golem that we can just keep popping back in our hand and, vindicating something every time. The Introduction to Prophecy, not really card draw, card selection, But then we have the Darksteel Pendant. Now, before I go any further, Darksteel Forge would be an amazing card in here. If I didn't have like 15 artifact decks, I would probably have one in here, but I don't have right now. So, but the Darksteel Pendant essentially allows you to scry 1. I know that's not a huge thing for a lot of decks, but that indestructible word meant a lot to me. We have... Let's look at our Eldrazi, our non-commander Eldrazi. There's not a lot here, but, I mean, we have the Eldrazi Mimic. It's not bad. If you play the Mimic and then you play your commanders, yeah. Endbringer. I like that it untaps during each other player's untap step. So it untaps every untap step, and it's just a blinker. Or a card drawer. That's the biggie. Bane of Balagad. What was they thinking making this an uncommon? Eldrazi Devastator. Breaker of Armies. Yeah. Everybody's got to block it. Ulamog's Crusher with Annihilator 2. There's a funny story about Ulamog's Crusher. In development, people in design and development, when they come up with this Annihilator ability, it only works when you declare them as an attacker. And nobody was declaring them as an attacker because they had this big creature and they kind of wanted to protect it. But so they made Ulamog's Crusher with the rider has to attack, and people saw how good Annihilator was. As it turns out, it's too good. We have Pathrazer of Ulamog, Annihilator 3. Artisan of Kozilek. That's return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. That's kind of sweet right there. And then the Desolation Twin. There again, the Desolation Twin working great with the Erratic Portal, so we can keep on making those 10/10 tokens. Got a Welding Jar to regenerate an artifact. Now, keep in mind, those Eldrazi are not artifacts. They're just colorless. But here are some artifact creatures. We have Traxos, because I figured, we're dang near everything we have, except for our Eldrazi, is, historic. So we have the Geode Golem. Now, I love the Geode Golem because it says you may cast your commander, and Ulamog only gets that special cool thing when you cast it. So, without paying its mana cost, you got to pay the command tax, but hey, that is awesome. Deals combat damage. That's a beautiful monster. We have a Shimmer Mirror to allow us to play artifacts all flashy like, and then I figured Darksteel Juggernaut. Okay, now we're going to get into, this is the, 4th or 5th card you've seen with Darksteel in it. I would be running the Forge, like I said, but it counts the number of artifacts. It's that big, it has to attack. It's just a big, beefy thing that's going to swing, right? It doesn't have any evasion, but we have the Darksteel Gargoyle does not see a lot of play. I know, it does not. 7 mana for a 3/3 flyer is not something we're normally in the market for. Neither is the Darksteel Sentinel. Now, Darksteel is one of my favorite sets. For this reason. Things that you just cannot destroy. Yes, we can be forced to sacrifice them. They can be bounced to our hand. They can be exiled. But good old blow up the world effects are not going to touch them. Now, this one's got Flash and Vigilance. The reason why I have the Darksteel cycle of creatures in there is for Worldslayer. Yeah, I know. It's dirty. Dirty, dirty wrong. So, our commander's indestructible. And if we got our commander out and we equip Worldslayer to it, that's game over. I mean, it really, really is. Your opponents are going to be hard-pressed to mount any kind of defense with no lands, no anything. And here we have this giant Eldrazi Titan with a Worldslayer that's going to blow up the world every single turn. So the reason why I have the Darksteel things in there, the indestructible, is because this way we've got something left. And he doesn't have to be the one to, But even I tried to get like the Cascading Cataracts as a land. It's also indestructible. The Darksteel Citadel, also indestructible. And even things to try to copy them, Vesuva, Thespian stage, to get more indestructible things out there. I guess that we are solidly in our equipment. Now, Ulamog does not have a whole lot of just, I'm big and I'm indestructible, but doesn't have evasion abilities, Vigilance, Trample, Haste. Vigilance is a big deal. It can block too. You got that untapped Ulamog. There's not a lot coming at you on the ground, right? Now, I know it sounds silly, but Kite Sail. I love Kite Sail, and especially when you can give your giant Eldrazi flying. That's a whole different ballgame then. You were, as it were, playing with power. Hedron Matrix. +X, where X is its converted mana cost, great for Eldrazi decks because they tend to have high CMCs. Yeah, that's big. Of course, the Darksteel Axe is indestructible. We know why that's in there. Loxodon Warhammer. More than anything here, Trample. The lifelink helps from not dying because there are a lot of people who will just see Ulamog in the command zone and just come gunning for you. And then, of course, good old Whisper Silk Cloak. Can't touch him, can't block him. Let's go. So if he's untargetable and unblockable and indestructible, man, that's hard to deal with. Whisper Silk Cloak on Ulamog is you get a lot of scoops that way. There's a couple here, oddball cards. I love Soul Foundry. You can exile a creature from your hand, and then just every turn start making token copies. Here again, your Manifold will untap this if you've got enough mana to keep making copies. Yeah. The Desolation Twin is especially good here. Yes, I know X would be 10, but you'd be getting 2 10/10s because you're making a creature token that's a Desolation Twin that brings the token with it. So, yeah. Then we have Storage Matrix. This is another kind of cheaty face card. As long as it's untapped, instead of untapping everything, the player chooses artifacts, creatures, or lands and untaps only those. Well, we're going to choose artifacts. Now, I guess there could be times when we don't have a lot of artifacts in play and we untap our lands, but more than likely, we're going to choose artifacts. And this way, it buys us time. We don't have the resources that, red, blue, black, white has. So, we got to buy us a little bit of time. Because our removal suite is not sweet. It's not. We have 6 cards. Spatial Contortion, -3 to the toughness. Might kill, small commander once. problem. Warping Whale. I've got this in there because it says counter target sorcery spell. Yeah, you can exile the small thing. You can get the... No, it says counter target sorcery. That matters a lot. Introduction to Annihilation. Just exile that thing. Yeah, they get a card, but you know what? You ain't got to worry about that thing anymore. Gruesome Slaughter's kind of different. Yes, All Is Dust would be amazing here. Oh, man, that would be amazing. But the colorless creatures gain tap to deal damage to its power, so you can pave the way if they've got blockers and you've got Ulamog and don't have a way for him to not be blocked. Your other creatures can just shoot the blockers and then he can get through. Not of This World. Now, this is a beautiful card. It is a 7-mana counter spell. Counter target spell that targets, or ability, that targets a permanent you control. However, it's free if they're targeting Ulamog or any of your other, 7 or mores. That's not bad, I'm going to Sword to Plowshare. No, you're not. Pat, no. And then just good old Scour from Existence. 7 mana, get that thing gone. So that's going to bring us to our non-basic lands. Got a good bunch here. We have the Mirror Pool, make copies, whatnot. It's Mishra's Factory, just because, it's a good blocker to win it. And it doesn't come into play tap. That's a big thing. Like the Ruins of War and Reef does. But you get a counter on, Temple of the False God. Of course, it's great. In Colorless, especially. Emergent Zone. We may need to flash out some things. Sanctum of Ugin. Colorless spell. Mana value 7 or greater. You can sack this. Search your library for a colorless creature. Put it in your hand, to go get that. If you need to go get that Meteor Golem or that card draw or whatever. Rogue's Passage, because, big giant commander. Lots of mana. Crawling Barrens. I like this. You may have it become a 0/0. So I like the fact that, at the end of the turn before you, if you have open mana, you can just, I'll put 2 counters on it. I'll put 2 counters on it. And then eventually, it becomes a force to be reckoned with. The Reliquary Tower. I like the Guildless Commons, the bounce lands. This is the Ravnica bounce land that has no color, essentially. And then lastly, we have the Encroaching Waste to destroy target Maze of Ith. Let's face it, that's what it is. And that is Ulamog. Like I said, the only 2 cards I would have preferred to have that I didn't have was the Forge and the All Is Dust. But beyond that, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. So, we're going to go put this not crooked on the wall. 857 is done. That one red deck kind of stands out there in the middle. But that is what we have got for today. I do appreciate y'all watching, following, liking, all that stuff. Tell me what you think. But right now, we're going to go ahead and shuffle and cut.